It's only been one game, but I can already tell that Colorado has three huge problems that they need to fix.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode, we are brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We're also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and that way you get to follow along every step of the way as Colorado looks to make a huge run this season. At least that's what they hope. They start off the year 0-1. Tough loss to Georgia Tech, came down to really the final seconds, the final drive, final few plays. And I think in that loss, there was three things that really stood out to me that need to be fixed or need to be adjusted, right? And obviously it's been one game, so I don't want to overblow everything, but there's certain things where it's been a tendency of this staff, of this team, where it's like, okay, we need to somehow nip this in the bud now. For starters, I think the most obvious big problem is the defensive line getting pushed around, shoved around. You have guys like Anquin Barnes, Quincy Wiggins, Jaheim Otis, Gabriel Life, all these guys, right? Tavion Coleman, where they're massive. Yet Georgia Tech ran for 320 yards, 6.8 yards per carry. And I saw this stat today that Colorado had, it was like a handful of missed tackles. Wasn't bad at all. So Colorado's wrapping up. It just means that their line was getting absolutely bodied. So that's a problem, right? Because the Big 12 and Colorado's going to have a physical schedule this season. And I think with a roster that not everyone thinks is as good, I think it's still a better roster than people realize. I think it's pretty solid. That being said, there's some physicality on this roster or on this schedule. You have BYU, you have Iowa State, Utah, Arizona State, Kansas State, for whatever they are. They're still physical, right? There's a lot of teams on Colorado's schedule that are going to be able to push them around if they don't improve what we saw from this past week. Other problem, and I think we all could agree with this, Colorado has not committed, and again, one game, so take this with a grain of salt. They haven't committed to their rotation of playmakers, whether it's receivers or running backs, and we keep doing this dance of like, oh, we're 10 deep, 8 deep. It's like, doesn't matter, right? It messes too much rotation, too much of this, too much of that. It's like, it's hard to figure out like who has a good connection because it's like every 3 plays we have a new wide receiver unit in there. Or Decalen Taylor, Scott Proctor pointed this out from DNVR. He had 12 snaps, 12, right? Decalen Taylor should be on the field majority of the game. I said he should have 12 touches per game, not 12 snaps, right? Did they misunderstand me? I don't know. But Decalen Taylor, in his 12 snaps, he only had 1 carry for 2 yards, but he had 3 catches for 38 yards and a touchdown, right? And when he's in open space, we've seen him. He's effective. He's elusive. He's hard to bring down, right? So why would you not want someone who's that dynamic, who's that, I guess, big of a threat to make a play happen every single time he touches the ball? Why would you not want him on the field more? Also, why is Omarion Miller and Draylon Miller, why are we not targeting them more? Why are we making Draylon Miller take snaps at running back if we're not going to use him? Why are we not pounding the rock with Micah Welch more? Like Jordan Seaton said it himself, they didn't commit to the run. And if they committed to the run, they probably could have won the game, right? Michael Welch, 11 for 64. Michael Welch probably should have had 20 carries, right? And I think Colorado is in this mode sometimes where it's like, we have to throw the ball 30 times a game. And it's like, we don't. You don't, right? Sometimes you could run the ball. Michael Welch was 11 for 64, 64 at 5.8 per carry, right? That's great. Keep feeding him. Why are we going away from him? Like, I don't understand why Colorado, even though they ran the ball, which I'm looking at 17 carries for running backs and then 13 rushes for Salter. Colorado talked all offseason about how they're going to run the ball more. They're going to be a power run team. They're going to win the game by running the ball and then all this jazz. And then they don't do it, right? I forgot who it was, but Kaidon Salter, who had this stat at least, Kaidon Salter, when he's playing out of the play action, is dynamic. He's great. That's what he does. right? So why would we not run the ball more to open up more play action opportunities, right? That doesn't make sense to me. But the biggest problem, and this is the one thing that I would personally panic about, and I think it requires hiring someone new, is Colorado has a game management problem. So, I mean, you guys remember, I talked about this frequently during Coach Prime's first year, the Oregon State game in year one, where they didn't have to force the issue before halftime in their own, and they were backed up in their own red zone or end zone, excuse me. They forced the issue. Oregon State ends up scoring. They get the ball back, and all of a sudden, what was like a 14-7 game ended up being a 28-7 game in no time. I don't remember the exact score, but it was something along those lines. And then there's other game, USC, where we're checking to run plays, we're wasting timeouts, and Colorado did that again. Well, they mismanaged their timeouts. So we're down, Colorado's down 27-20 with a minute and 7 left, right? Kaidon Salter throws a swing route, which granted I think I saw about 12 too many swing routes. I don't know the exact number. Throws a swing route, gets stuffed. So it's second down. Colorado has 2 timeouts at this point. The clock is winding down. And just tick, 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 tick. Second and 12. They don't snap the ball again until 45 seconds left. So after what could have been, they killed 13 seconds just setting up, right? You wasted 13 seconds setting up your next play, and then your next play, you didn't do anything, right? Well, I mean, you kind of did, I guess, right? So Kaidon Salter snaps the ball, throws it, nice little gain, 1 yard short of the first down. He finds Hakeem Williams, and then there's 35 seconds at that point. Well, guess what? No timeout, so we still got 2 timeouts just sitting there cooking. Kaidon Salter snaps the ball with around 25 seconds left, scrambles from right to left, ends up running all the way to the sidelines, out of bounds in 18 seconds, excuse me. And so then Colorado has 18 seconds for the next 2 plays, and it was Hail Mary, and then they kind of like didn't get another shot, right? So, and Coach Prime talked about it after the game and didn't really love his answer. He basically said that game management wise, I don't think he recalled the series of events as accurately as they happened, and that's okay. I mean, it's right after the game, but he basically made it seem like he said, I'm not going to call timeouts just so the media doesn't ask me about calling timeouts. And it's like, it's not about that, right? You call a timeout after that first play. You have 2 moments to basically walk your team through something. You have 2 moments to be like, okay, we've done this before. Okay, this is the look we want. Or okay, this is the play we're going to run. And we missed out on that because you're letting the clock run. And what was only ended up being like 1 or 2 shots at the end zone could have been 3 to 5, right? Colorado took away opportunities from themselves to tie that game up and send it to overtime. And that was really disappointing. And in terms of hiring someone new, obviously this isn't like a head coaching hire, but maybe it's analytics hire. Maybe it's a game management hire, right? If Pat Shurmur's in charge of managing the game, I'm not loving that in general, just based off his play calling. But again, you cannot basically shoot yourself in the foot and take away the chance you have to win a game because you don't want to disrupt the flow, or I don't even know, right? There wasn't really a good reasoning to me. I think Colorado really fumbled a late opportunity, let alone fumbling the game itself, which I'll get to in the next segment. But game management has continually been an issue for Colorado the past 3 years, right? And I'm not saying it can't be fixed, but I'm saying we haven't seen them really masterfully manage a game, and I think that continues to plague them. So until we see a dramatic improvement, how Colorado manages a game is going to continue to worry me. When we come back, I'm going to talk about why Pat Shurmur could be on thin ice. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at, let me tell you, we got a new sponsor, and I like them. The Game Cap. Quick question for all you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time and sit front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, what hat would you be wearing? Yes, I said hat. For me, it would be the game. These aren't just hats. They're the same vintage style hats fans wore back in the 80s and 90s. And guess what? They still go for the same price they did back then. When you use code Locked On, you'll get your vintage hat for $16.99. So head to thegamecaps.com, grab your team's exclusive bar or retro circle design, and use code Locked On for an exclusive discount, because legends wear the game. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. This episode is also brought to you by our sponsors over at Game Time. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping out at checkout. That's why I use Game Time. The app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you get. So my favorite part too, they have this feature where you just click on a seat and you kind of tilt your phone. You see exactly what your view will be from that seat. So there's no surprises, no random polls in the way. So take the guesswork out of buying out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download Game Time today. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and let's have some fun, right? The football season is here, and you should be making me your first listen of the day if you haven't already, because we're gonna dive into a lot of things. Tomorrow's episode, former Buff Jordan Dominic's gonna hop on the show. We're gonna talk about what went wrong from from his perspective, right? Football players just perspective or Colorado player's perspective. Let's talk Deion Sanders as coordinator, right? The offense, I think here's my take on the Pat Shurmur situation. Pat Shurmur's offense isn't bad, right? I like the looks we were getting. I liked the backfield, like when they had multiple running backs in the backfield. I like when we were running 21 personnel. I liked when they were utilizing the tight ends. I liked the looks we were getting. That being said, the play calling in certain times, certain periods, it was just like, why, right? What are we doing here? Why aren't we being aggressive? We have a chance for a kill shot, and we're not taking the kill shot opportunity. And so I that brings the question that I tweeted on Locked on Buffs over there. Is it time for Byron Leftwich to call plays? Now, Byron Leftwich, I don't really know what his role is, right? His role is a quote-unquote quarterback mentor. So he's there to help Julian Lewis, Kaidon Salter. I don't even know if he's there full-time. That being said, Pat Shurmur, things that really, I think, irked me about Colorado's offense, and this is where the Pat Shurmur problem comes. Colorado forced 3 turnovers in Georgia Tech's first 3 drives. Colorado, at a minimum, should have had 14 or 10 points, right? They get 7 points off of 3 turnovers. And, you score 1 touchdown, right? It's a 27-20 game or 27-27 game, right? You don't have to worry about the horrendous late game management, but you have an opportunity to win the game in other ways, right? You take pressure off this. You take confidence off of Georgia Tech. You prevent Haynes King and Georgia Tech from being able to run the ball because, hey, we're down 2 scores, 3 scores. We have to throw the ball, right? Colorado basically let Georgia Tech play their game, and that's a game that I said before the game itself. Colorado can't beat Georgia Tech and be more physical, right? Colorado has struggled with more physical teams. They did last year, and it looks like they will again this year, unless they figure it out in the next week. But Pat Shurmur, this is what happens right after. Georgia Tech fumbles 2 plays. Colorado scores in 5, and it's like, okay, here we go, right? Colorado pedal to the metal. Let's force the issue. Let's shove it down their throats. Fumble the next play. Fumble next drive. Colorado, incomplete pass, 3 and out, right? All of a sudden, it's like, okay, 27-second drive, 27-second drive, and then we punt. Great. Interception, Haynes King, DJ McKinney, diving interception, right? Great pressure by Quincy Wiggins, forces the bad throw. Colorado, 3 plays and out. Incomplete pass, run for 9 yards. Incomplete pass, right? And they could have gone for it, too. I really think that there was an opportunity for Colorado to take it's 3rd and 4. So then they complete the pass for 3 yards. It's 4th and 1 at the Colorado 43. Why aren't we getting aggressive there? Instead, they take a delay a game and allow their punter to punt it further. It's like, why not go for it on 4th and 1? Show Georgia Tech, hey, we hold the cards here. We are holding the fate of this game in our hands, not you guys, right? We're not going to let you guys get back into it. And so, again, I want to reiterate, Pat Shurmur's offense itself, the schemes, the looks, not bad. I don't hate them. What I was not a fan of was the play calling. And before anyone says like, oh, Deion Sanders isn't going to move on from him, I hate to break it to you, but Deion Sanders cycled through coordinators at Jackson State. Sean Lewis, who's now a head coach at San Diego State, was demoted mid-season for Pat Shurmur, by the way, at Colorado, right? Deion Sanders has never shied away from pulling the plug on an experiment or a coach that doesn't work, right? And obviously, you don't want someone to lose your job. I think that's one of my biggest lessons I learned in my time in the media was my first year covering a team. I was covering Stanford, and it was David Shaw's last year, actually. And it was one of those things where I'm looking at David Shaw, and this team has multiple NFL talents on it. And it's like they're 3-9, and the life was out of the program. Fan base wasn't showing up. And what I learned is that there's like a human element to this thing. It's after a game, and I think they had just lost, and it was a pretty bad loss, as most of them had been that year. And I looked David Shaw in the eyes, and no one had asked him this question yet. And I asked him something along the lines of, do you feel like you're on the hot seat? Do you feel like you still deserve to be the head coach at Stanford? Like, can you figure it out? And like, obviously, and I don't know if this is how every press conference is going, but his wife is off to the side, his family's off to the side, and everyone just kind of looks at me. And it's like, it was a hard question to ask, but it was the right question to ask because he ended up stepping down at the end of the year. And that's all I'm trying to say is there's a human element to this. Like, I'm not just like fire this guy, fire that guy, because it'd be like if someone showed up to your day job and you're sitting there typing away at your cubicle, and one of your coworkers or a random observer named Steve is like, hey, Kevin sucks, fire him. And your boss is like, okay, yeah, Kevin does suck, I'm gonna fire him, right? It's not something that I take lightly when I call for someone's job. And I'm not calling for Pat Shurmur's job, but I am saying that it wouldn't shock me if we get to a point where it's like, okay, we're not where we need to be, and you're currently calling the plays, right? If Sean Lewis could be demoted, Pat Shurmur could be demoted. And Colorado has a good game this week against Delaware to figure it out. And then after that, they play a game against Houston and Wyoming. So Houston's better than they were, but Houston is a winnable game. If it's September 27th and you're going against BYU, that stretch, that's BYU, TCU, Iowa State, Utah, and you haven't figured things out on offense, it's going to be tough, right? And Pat Shurmur needs to be more aggressive. He needs to be more, I think, strategic with his play calling, I guess, and just needs to he needs to flip a switch. I don't know what switch it is. It's just going to automatically fix it, but he needs to find it and he needs to flip it because Coach Prime has never shied away from going away from someone. So if he's not living up to the Coach Prime standard, we may see a change in play caller, and it could be Coach Bartolone as well. I really don't know what Coach Leftwich's role with Colorado is. I don't know his capacity, right? So there's that. But Colorado may have to make a change. I really hope it doesn't get to that point. But the offense, I wasn't inspired by that performance. That's showing a play calling. When we come back, I'm going to talk about the quarterback situation. Is it time to bench Kaidon Salter, or are we jumping the gun? This episode of Locked on Buffs is also brought to you by our sponsors over at Rougiet. You've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But guys, if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiet Ready. Rougiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average, in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rougiet might be the only answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. So if you want to make the switch and get a little frisky in the bedroom, if you know what I mean, head to Rougiet.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege and use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rougiet website for full safety information. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you all for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to like, subscribe, follow. You don't want to miss out on a moment of the coverage. We're going to have some fun stuff to talk about moving forward. Let's dive into the quarterback situation. Kaidon Salter. I think I expected a stronger showing from him. I think it was a little bit of jitters, a little bit of play calling, and a little bit of just not hitting on the right throws, right? 17 to 28 for a touchdown, 159 yards. Also rushed for 43 yards and a touchdown, right? I think he could have played better. This is his pass breakdown. On passes 20 yards or more, he was 1 of 5. Passes 10 yards, 10 to 19 yards, he was 1 of 4. And then passes 0 to 9 yards, 8 to 10. And then passes behind the line of scrimmage, 7 to 7, right? I don't think they did a good enough job stretching the field. I don't think he did a good enough job with his accuracy. And I think it's one of those things where we're quick to jump to conclusions, right? It's a situation where I think people are very quick these days to pull the trigger on a quarterback, right? And Skip Bayless, of all people, tweeted, Kaidon Salter is a shifty scrambler, but just not accurate. Excuse me. Kaidon Salter is a shifty scrambler, but just not accurate enough as a passer. Feels like Deion is going to have to give five-star Julian Lewis a shot sooner than later. And I pose the question, is it too soon to move on? And I think with Salter, and Coach Prime said it after the game, first of all, it is way too soon to move on, right? I want to preface this. Kaidon Salter is a veteran. Colorado saw a lot in him to bring him in over Julian Lewis, right? They could have easily just gone the route of like, hey, we got this 5-star. We're going to just hand him the keys and he's going to live up to potential right away. They could have done that, but they chose not to. And Kaidon Salter is that guy who was the 2023 Conference USA MVP. He's that guy threw for 32 tuds, 6 picks, and then ran for another 12 tuds, right? Kaidon Salter was playing hesitant, right? It felt like he was forcing the throw. Like in baseball, they always say when you're pitching, it's like you're not aiming, but it's like you're trying to guide the ball to the catcher's mitt. And when a pitcher does that, it's like you're just overthinking like what you're doing. I felt like Kaidon Salter was overthinking a lot of throws, right? There's the swing or the wheel route to, I forgot which running back it was, he puts it on his chest. That's a touchdown. Overthrows to Kalen Taylor a couple times. Overthrows Draymond Miller down the field, like just missed throws, right? It felt like he was trying way too hard. I think his best throw was the one to Marion Miller on the sideline over there. I think it was like a 39. It was only Marion Miller's only catch, 39-yard gain. Great throw, right? Kaidon Salter just he didn't play to his potential, and he was hesitant to run. I think he was putting too much of an emphasis on trying to throw the ball, which is weird because usually you want your quarterback to like not just run when things get hard. And I'm not telling Salter to just be like, okay, first read's not there, I'm going to take off. But there was moments where it's like he's forcing a throw, and if he just runs, he's getting 15 yards. Instead, it's an incomplete pass or it's a pass deflection, whatever. Like, excuse me. Like there was just moments where it's like take off and run, right? Make the defense fear you. And I don't think the defense has feared him. Now, again, the same thing with Pat Shurmur. If we're in week 5 or 6 and it's just obvious that Kaidon Salter doesn't have it, like he's consistently inaccurate, the offense isn't moving the ball as much as it should be, then I think you throw Julian Lewis in. I don't think you need to put Julian Lewis in until it kind of is not too late, but until you have a clear answer on Kaidon Salter, you don't bench him for Julian Lewis, right? One game is hard to hold everyone to, hold everyone to a standard. It's like, okay, if you gave me one chance, if you gave anyone you've met in your life, like say your significant other, was your first impression that good where it's like, yeah, I'm going to marry them, right? I don't think everyone's was. I don't think my first impression with my fiance, Kristen, was that impressive, right? I think she thought of me as more of a goober than like anything else, right? So it's one of those things where it's like one game is not enough to determine if we need to make a change of quarterback. That being said, if the ensuing weeks, like if he doesn't find it against Delaware, it's like he may not find it, right? You have to give him an appropriate amount of time. You have to give him the right play calling, and he just needs to find his confidence and find his rhythm. And I don't think he really did that, right? I think Colorado had, I'll pull it up right now. In the first quarter alone, they had 3 drives that were in 3 plays and out, right? They went 3 plays and out, 3 plays punt, 3 plays punt, 5 plays punt, 8 plays field goal. Like that drive was better with 2:54 left in the first half. Third quarter, they get the ball. 4 plays punt, 8 plays field goal. That was decent. Then they score a touchdown on 15 plays, 5 plays punt. Like there's just so many drives where it's like, okay, we're just boom, 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 we're out. It's not even like, okay, we made it 10 plays down the field, then we punt or whatever. Like he's got to find his rhythm. I don't think it's time to pull the plug on the Kaidon Salter experience yet. That being said, we do need to see an elevated Kaidon Salter. We need to see the guy that we saw at Liberty a couple years ago, not the guy that we saw last year. And I think it's play calling, it's confidence, and it's just simply being a little bit more accurate at times. So appreciate you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow, and I will see you guys tomorrow.